Hey everybody, it's Chad, but nobody else's auto. Tonight we're going to check out some cars that are pretty rough. Now, we like old cars on here, period. So I thought we'd go ahead and show you these. These are all over the country in this situation. Unfortunately, not much left of these or most of the cars that ended up with this fate. Now, you can see by standing behind me, we're not in our typical environment. We see trees, we see water. That's because we're down on a river. Back in the day, to deter erosion, a lot of times old cars were used. Now this happened all over the country. Rivers, lakes, ponds, streams. They would take old car bodies, shove them over the edge so that it would help prevent the dirt from washing away on the banks and washing out. Now, there's a lot of cars still out there. However, at this point, you know, this happened 50, 60 years ago. Not a lot left of most of these cars. But we're going to show you a few of them. Like I said, they're scattered all over. I know where there's a lot of them at. So when we get a chance, we'll try to bring you some videos on some of this stuff. Even though it's kind of sad to see these cars in this condition, it is part of the history of cars and what happened to them back in the day. And you wonder what happened to a lot of good cars. This happened to a lot of good cars. So had a buddy that had a limo service that could get us down here. We'll show you the limo here in a little bit. But he got us down into this so that we could show you some remains of what were cool cars. Let's start right here. We can see a car right here directly behind me. Obviously very little left of this thing. It was shoved in here years ago. I've walked around these a little bit and checked them out. This was a 1956 Pontiac. Now we'll take you around over here and kind of show you the front, and it's tricky down here. You can see right there, if we slip, we're going right into those steel barriers and into the water. So it's kind of tricky to get around down here. Lots of these trees have thorns on them, so we definitely do not want to slide through those. And I really don't want to slide into the water because it's not exactly extremely warm today. But we'll kind of work our way down here, hopefully without falling into the water, where we can get a little bit of a glimpse of the front of this car and kind of somewhat see what was formerly known as a 1956 Pontiac. Now, when they put these cars in here, they weren't careful about it. It didn't matter. They were junk. They were going to be for erosion control, so they were not kind to them in any way, shape, or form. They were shoved in, they were destroyed, and they didn't spend a lot of time or a lot of care with them. We'll work our way this direction, and we'll get right down in here to an old Rambler. This was somewhere in the late 50s, 58-ish era Rambler. Once again, basically balled this thing up as they shoved it in. Not too careful with it, didn't really care. It was junk, it was scrap iron. We can see the door handle. We can see the somewhat of the shape of the C-pillar, kind of somewhat designating it as a Rambler. Even part of an emblem left there from when they rolled this thing up in a ball. We can see the rear bumper guard. Not much there, barely enough to identify it as a Rambler, but that's what it was. Also other junk, old stoves, anything that was, you know, solid enough that they could push down in here to curtail the erosion back in the day is what they did. So we're going to work our way this direction, through more trees, through more weeds, over to a few more. Now, in case you're wondering how we got down here, because it is tricky, there's our limo. That was our ride to get down here. We'll get by it here a little bit closer. Thankfully, my buddy had a good way to get us in here to show you this stuff, but that's kind of what it takes. But as we work our way through an old pop cooler laying down there in the dirt, other old metal just scattered randomly, and we'll work our way over here to another body. Once again, basically nothing left. This one was an Oldsmobile, 55, I believe, from what I can tell. Obviously, we can see how damaged the cowl section is from when they just shoved these cars in here. They didn't care. They weren't being kind. They weren't being polite. It didn't matter. We can kind of get a little better look over here. We can get around some of these trees. And it's really tricky to get down here. But we're going to kind of hunker under this tree here so we can kind of hopefully not fall into the water. And actually we can see a little bit down here. If we look really close under here, we can see an 88 badge. Right under there's an 88. Pretty tough to see. We can see some of the side chrome here. But just barely anything at all left of this old Oldsmobile. They did their job as far as erosion control, but the cars, we can see the rust in these things, the damage. You see how damaged the cowl section is from shoving this thing around when they pushed these in here years and years ago. But that's the unfortunate end to a lot of these cars. There's one more over here we're going to kind of work our way over to. There's not even enough left of this to know for sure what it was. We'll work our way around the back of the Oldsmobile here. And we can kind of take a look from this direction and see a few more telltale signs on the Oldsmobile. We can see the trunk handle there. The globe is gone, but the handle is there. We can get out of the trees here. We can kind of see this side a little bit better. We can see where it had the backup delete, the tail light. We can see the quarter panel or the rear side molding's a little bit better there as well. Plus some of the car that's just about to go into the water. Now right behind me there was one other car. However, there really isn't a good way to get to it. I can't get to it close enough to identify it. You can come up from the water to get it, or here's the other problem. Where this body is at is buried in these thorns. And I'm not extremely interested in diving through those thorns just to try to figure out what it was. So what we are going to do, we're going to work our way back this direction and show you what happens to some of these cars as they eventually end up in the water. So we're going to head over this way. And work our way back to where we kind of came in. And we're back right here to where the Rambler body was. There was another car right here that very little left of this, hardly at all. But I think what we've got right here was a 58 Ford. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking this was a 58 Ford. Let me show you why. If we look at this side of the car here, this looks like it was a four-door. And we see this little piece of gold trim on the B-pillar. And it appears as though this had a wide strip that went right across here off of that gold trim. To me, that's telling me 58 Ford car. Not 100% sure on that because that's what we've got to work with, but that's about all we can tell from here. So we're going to jump over these other barricades here. And we're going to take a look at what happens after a few of these end up in the water. There's our limousine that brought us down here today. If that kind of tells you what we had to do to get in here. But here we are. There's the Rambler we started with. Now, something else that just confirms my last suspicion I just noticed. Right here, we can see the remnants of a 58 Ford car grill. So I'm going to assume my assumption was correct on that car being a 58 Ford with the remnants of that 58 Ford car grill right there. As we look around on the ground, these cars have actually come down towards the water. We can see right here, if we look close, this was a frame and chassis. We can see right there, that was a frame. Literally just crumbling that was a frame of a car at one point. So there was a car right here at some point in time. Now we're right down at the water now. So we're gonna look over here and take a peek inside. There's another frame sticking out right there. There's a remnant of a bumper sticking out of the ground right there. Want to be really careful right here. One wrong step and I'm in the water. So there's a steering wheel and steering column. And this whole row here are car parts. We can see another steering column sticking up there. We can see a bumper sticking up over there. Another steering wheel and steering column out over there in the water. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys can tell or not, right there, right down there in the murk, there is a chunk of a bumper sticking out underwater. So kind of interesting. Unfortunately, this happened to a lot of cars back in the day. We'll walk our way over here. We see a chunk of stainless side molding. We see more chunks of frame that have literally just crumbled. We can see out over there, we've got a remnant of another steering wheel. So just kind of crazy how much of this stuff is down here and what happened to it. Obviously nothing here really savable, barely even possibly a few parts. Now over the years, I found a lot of cars in the river that we have stripped parts off of, but obviously not much left of any of this. There's the Rambler again. There's the 56 Pontiac, the 58 Ford. And right over here, we've got a few other remnants. We see another chunk of suspension here, another steering wheel, steering column sticking up there. Few dash knobs. Based on these dash knobs, I'm going to say this was an Oldsmobile as well, or part of the other Oldsmobile. But I think this was another car the way it looks, because if we look right here, we see how this is shaped up here. As a matter of fact, this was another Oldsmobile. We can't really see very good from here. We can see the end of this taillight spear sticking up here. I'm going to try to get down over here without falling into the water to show you what tipped me off that this is definitely an Oldsmobile besides the dash knobs. We'll try to be real careful as we come around over to here. And we're right down at the water now. So I really want to be careful. We can see the remnants of that old taillight assembly that was definitely Oldsmobile. So this would have been 49, 50, 51, 52 era Oldsmobile at one point in its life. Just not much there anymore. So anyway, that's what we've got for you. Now that did happen to a lot of cars. Over the years, we have found a lot of cars in riverbanks that were, we could strip parts off of. There's been a few instances where cars were up on the edge close enough where I could actually get a few of them out. That's very far and few between, and that was years ago, because a lot of these cars at this point are in this condition now. So unfortunately, that doesn't really happen much anymore. But this is something kind of different. I hope to get some more of this stuff in the future for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, it's tricky to get down here. This is what it took us to get down in here to bring these cars to you. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys like it, and hopefully we can find some more to show to you in the near future. So as always, if you're on YouTube, be sure to check out my other videos. It's all old cars, trucks, memorabilia. That's what we do on here, because that's what we love. If you like hanging out with us, please be sure to click that subscribe button, and be sure to click that notification button so you know when we go live and you know when we post videos. So as always, if you've got any questions about specific vehicles or parts that you see on my channel anywhere, give me a call, 620-786-4428. That's the only way to get a hold of me, to have a conversation about something you may have seen on a video. So something a little different today. Hopefully we can find some more. We're going to do a little bit more scouting and see what we can come up with. But thanks for watching, everybody, and we sure hope to see you soon on the next video.